Welcome, ladies. And Natasha, very sorry to know that you've got your problems with your teeth, but you can listen to this later. So good to see you. And thank you, Tamara, for sending me a question. Ruth doesn't have a question at this stage. Carolyn, did you have a thing you wanted to raise? And we'll do this at some point.
No. I've had a busy couple of weeks, so I'll...
Okay. So after our first one, and there were the slides there just to set the scene. I don't tend to use slides all the time, but that was so that you've got that to go back to. How are your feelings about things after your first session? How did you leave it? Don't all speak at once.
Yeah.
I must say, I actually felt a bit overwhelmed, but that's okay. And
I can't hear you very well, Carolyn.
can't you? Can you hear me now?
No.
Yes?
A bit better.
Better?
Yep.
I don't... whether it has any impact on the connection. I did feel overwhelmed, and I still do, but I've had a very busy 2 weeks with work, and this is a big time of year for me. So I just need to run with it for now, and I'm sure things will sort of come into place in another week or so. I'll just need to focus a bit more, I think.
Yes. And just remember what I said at the start, that the reason these are being recorded are you're not expected to do everything at once, and providing things that you can do over a period of time. So the first one was just to set the scene about some things that we'll cover over a period of time. And that's why it's recorded, so that you can go back over the bits that you need to at the time. Yeah. Thanks for that, Carolyn. What about you, Ruth?
I'm feeling quite busy also, because my job is tiring in some way, but just trying to do my best just to put in movement another boom blessing here in Brisbane. And in some Facebook pages, I try to put an arbor related to doing boom blessing and boom healing as a private sessions or something like that. But I think that is little by little. But I have to recognize that during these moments, for me, it's like I need to be on my own, or to be lonely in some way, not to contact with many people, and just to focus on myself and what I want, or what is my mission, or what I want to do on the next weeks or something like that. Because I think that I have to know about the media or the marketing here in Australia. Maybe it's in everywhere in the world, maybe it's the same thing, I don't know, but just to need to know about the session of today, about marketing, or the things we can do just to start a new business.
Yes, and that's why you're being given the fundamentals. So there's no point doing a marketing plan if you don't know who you're going to be marketing to. And that's why I sent you about to develop your avatar, like your ideal client. Did you have a look at that document that I sent that gave you an example of an avatar?
No, I didn't. Sorry.
Okay.
I will do this.
So if you don't, so if you're trying to build a business, like if you're trying to build a house and you put the roof on and you haven't got walls, it's going to fall flat, isn't it? So if you're trying to build a business and you don't know who you're trying to talk to in your business, you won't be able to do it. So it's really important that you develop an understanding of the type of woman you want to attract. That's your avatar. and that when you develop that, you'll be able to much better be able to do some marketing.
Okay.
But at this stage, there's no point doing targeted marketing until you know who you're marketing to. So we'll go into this because we've got Dianna Jacobsen coming online now. Hello, Dianna.
Hi, girls.
Welcome. Welcome. So I'm just letting so we've got Ruth here. Just put your hand up, Ruth. Carolyn. And Tamara's disappeared.
Hi, I'm over in the kitchen. Hello. I'm coming back and forth.
And Natasha, who is very disappointed, but she's got an illness at the moment that's preventing her being out of bed. So these are being recorded, Dianna, most importantly, so each participant can keep going back over the information. So this is Dianna Jacobsen, ladies, who's come on board very generously to share what she feels might be some vital points for you to consider at this stage of building your new business. And Dianna's worked for many years as a chartered practicing and accountant and financial advisor and lots of other things in a very holistic way, because she looks at people's lifestyle and wants and needs and all sorts of things that come into it. So thank you, Dianna, for making the time to do this. It's really very much appreciated. So
You're welcome.
So Dianna and I will have a bit of a chat and we'll mute you all. And then afterwards, Dianna will have to go and we will continue the discussion ourselves, either about what Dianna said or some of the things that we were talking about a few minutes ago, okay?
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, sure.
So, Viv, are we able to mute people? Okay, thank you. So, Dianna, thank you again. And we'd had a little bit of a chat about some of the things that might be important for people who haven't. Caroline here has actually been running a franchise, so she knows that side of the business, which is different from running as a sole trader. And the other three participants have not run a business before that I'm aware of. So what do you think, if you had three things that you thought were important for people to do in the next few months to establish, really strong foundations for their business, what do you think they might include?
Okay. Hi, everyone, and thanks, Wendy, for the invitation to join you all tonight. Obviously, the straightforward things I'm sure you're covering. So the financial literacy 101 stuff, with things like having an ABN and looking at which tax structure you're in, how to do your record keeping, what insurances you need, what compliances you need. So I think all of those are probably reasonably straightforward insofar as they're the things that you might talk to your accountant about or other advisors, and they would be a case-by-case situation. By all means, I'm happy to offer a phone chat or whatever's appropriate for anyone that wants to drill down and get some direction on that. But I thought tonight, Wendy, there's probably three other things that I would bring into the conversation that won't be what you would get as a straightforward piece of advice from some of these financial people. Would that be okay?
That'd be great, yeah.
All right, well, I might share my screen with everyone because for anyone that knows me, I like to talk in diagrams. So let me just get the whiteboard
happening here. So can we make this the whole screen, Viv? Okay, that's better.
Okay, so the first thing I'd suggest, whether people have been in business before or not, is just to have an understanding that business is a team sport. So what happens is we get a whole heap of people that are involved in our business experience. So just let me get drawing happening here. It's our drawing tool. Okay. Whiteboard. Sorry, girls, just trying to get my drawing happening.
I did see the pencil briefly. Yep, there it is.
There we go. All right, I was just trying to use my little my own one, but it won't work. Okay, so in business we have an accountant, and what I see the mistake being made is that people think that their accountant tells them everything they need to know about business. And while certainly your accountant is an important part of that team and perhaps the ringleader of your team, just be mindful that the accountant can't, by licensing and by law, cover all aspects of business. So the accountant is definitely the person you go to first and talk to them about setting up your tax entity and your ABN, whether GST is applicable to you or not, and what sort of structure you should be in, and then what sort of record keeping you need to keep. But accountants then generally will look at historical figures with you. They'll look at the figures that you bring in and tell you what you've done up until this point in time. Now that is only prescriptive for future if you don't make any changes. But if you're making changes and working on your business and building up your marketing or your team, then what's happened in the past does not have to be indicative of what's going to happen in the future. So the accountant is the person that you talk to about your tax, your record keeping, your tax structure, and the day-to-day operation of your business probably. The next person that people have in their team is a financial planner. Sorry, it's very wonky with the cursor compared to my normal pen. But we have a financial planner. Now, whereas the accountant looks at historical figures, the financial planner will look at future figures. They'll do the mapping out of what you need to get by year on year. It might be retirement planning. It might be just wealth creation. It might be eligibility for Centrelink. It might just be managing your mortgage. Just what you need from this point forward. So they'll work in conjunction with your accountant, but there's different qualifications and there's different licensing to be an accountant versus a financial planner. So a financial planner is not qualified to talk about tax and tax entities and things like that. They will talk to you about personal insurance, so things like income protection insurance or accident insurance or life insurance. So particularly if you're the key breadwinner in your family, the financial planner is the person to talk to in that. The next person that comes into our team will be a solicitor. And again, depending on what the business is, whether there needs to be contracts or other sorts of legal documents that need to come into play. But it's important that you just touch base with them for any sorts of legal coverage or estate planning and so forth. There'll be probably a bank manager or a mortgage broker if we've got any borrowings in this picture. And again, the bank manager will talk to you about loans, serviceability, equity, and they will suggest that you borrow in whichever entity serves their purpose the best. So in my experience, I've often seen conflicting advice come from a bank manager as to an accountant as to where you should put any borrowings, because they're looking at it from completely opposite points of professional view. So don't take the advice from your bank manager as to where you should put any borrowings. Speak to your accountant and then go through your bank manager for that. Also in this picture could be someone like an insurance rep, because if we've got property or equipment, then we need to have insurance on that. And for certain industries, we need to have different sorts of insurance if we're in food handling or vehicle or manufacturing or whatever might be relevant. So we'll have some sort of insurance rep in that picture. And of course, we all have well-meaning friends and family, the neighbour, the bloke at the footy, the butcher, and all these other people that give us well-meant advice, but maybe not accurate, because they'll be coming from their background, from their tax entity, from their industry, from their experiences, So just be mindful to hear what they're saying and perhaps check it out before you take that as gospel. I certainly know I've had so many experiences over the last several decades in my professional life where people have seriously challenged the advice that I've been giving them because the bloke at the footy told them something different. So, just check those out. So there are all these people that are telling us how to run our business. And here we are in the middle, and we just want to do our thing. And we've got all this different advice coming from all of these different people, and generally it's not aligned. Generally it's different and sometimes conflicting. And it's very confusing for this poor person in the middle saying, who do I listen to? I just want to be a plumber. I just want to run a motel. I just want to be a hairdresser. And everybody's telling us something different. So do just be mindful of that and seek to find a person that might help you to integrate that conversation. Anyway, so to tie it together, now the accountant might be that person because they can see your big picture and see what these other players are doing in that. Just do be mindful that you'll get lots of different advice, and it can be a real trap if you're not familiar with what these people are saying, and it can just completely overwhelming because you won't know where to start because everyone's got different jargon and so forth. Go and find one person that you want as the ringleader and be guided by their expertise and tie in the pieces that are relevant to you and let the rest go. An extension of that also is, while it's important to do your due diligence and do some homework, don't Google yourself to death, because there can be so much information with, what tax entity should I be and all this sort of stuff that you'll just absolutely overload yourself, and it would be a better investment to spend, a couple of $100 to go and sit down with someone like an accountant or some professional that you trust and just get the information relevant for you and not worry about all the rest of it. So that would be the first thing that I would suggest. So let me clear that. Does anyone want to throw any questions in, Wendy, or do we want to just keep rolling and have questions later?
I think if you can all just jot down any questions. Well, actually, maybe just if there are any, just put your hand up and you can be unmuted. Otherwise, we'll keep going. So, Ruth, if you haven't got any questions, we seem to have lost Carolyn.
Yeah, no, she's there. You've got to scroll down.
Oh, okay. Carolyn, because this is quite, in some ways, a bit different from what you're used to with the franchise, where a lot of this work's already been done for you in the franchise. So it's different things to consider. So if you've got a question, just stick your hand up like that right now. Otherwise, we'll just keep going. Okay, well, we'll keep going for now. And I think that's really great information, Dianna, because certainly when I started out a few decades ago, I found exactly what you're saying, that I was getting conflicting advice from everywhere, and I found a person who helped me tie it all together. So even though I had a business degree and lots of experience in that way, I still found that it was really great to get someone to help you tie it all together. And I certainly learned not to listen to bank managers' advice. That they've got a vested interest in you using their products, and so have a lot of financial planners.
And also be mindful that, with respect, a lot of those people have not been in business for themselves. Yes. So they've always been in a salaried position. So while they might understand the numbers on the page, they may or may not understand a lot of the issues that are part of a small business.
Yes, yes, that's true. So with the participants in this course, apart from what you've just told us, which is really, really important, because otherwise you can get really overwhelmed by all all you have to do. Is there one specific main thing with someone starting off in a business who's never done business or never been a sole trader before that you think is really important?
Okay, have we got time for me to share another diagram to answer that?
Yes, yep.
Yep.
Go diagram.
Okay, because I would say that it's just not all about the numbers. We can all have numbers on a page that we can dissect till the cows come home, but that doesn't necessarily make that indicative of where we go in the future. So I don't know why, but my normal pen's not working, so I'll have to try and draw with the mouse.
Oh, this will be interesting.
So, yeah, I know. I don't know why my pen's not registering tonight. However, just give me a sec. Okay, so we have a profit and loss statement, or it could be a bank statement. Okay, so we always look at what's on the bottom line here, and with our accountant normally we will have gone over what was the income, what were the expenses, all that sort of thing. And normally we will have looked at the obvious stuff, like how much rent are we paying and what phone plan we're on and so on. Generally when I work with businesses and I say, if I gave you a magic wand, what would you like to change? And invariably I hear, I need more money. Give me a truckload of cash and I'll be right. My answer to that is that you can't fix cash flow with cash, because so often I've seen people have a windfall of cash from somewhere, and because their systems are not sound, it's like pouring water into a bucket full of holes. They'll throw the cash at all the problem places, like sticking band-aids on, and then the cash is gone and then the problems come back. What really this profit and loss shows, or bank statement, that's the scorecard of whatever we've been doing up until this point in time. So that becomes a reflection of the obvious business things that we might talk about, such as marketing, how we spend our time, what staff or team we use, what our network is, and the inputs, so cost of producing our widget. So all of those things are the obvious things that impact on and are impacted by our bottom line. But what we don't stop to think about, and what I think is really important, particularly for women in business, are things like our family, our relationship, our life balance, it's very skillful, and our health, because that's a big one that becomes a cost often, because we think we have to work harder and harder and harder and be all things to all people. So all of these things feed into and are impacted by this bottom line. So it's important when we talk about business that we're not just looking at the obvious things, that we're also taking into account our investment in the other areas of our life. That needs to be balanced by our mindset. So this is kind of like our vibration or our attitude, or whatever you might call it. So we all have days where we get out of bed, kick our toes, spill the coffee, fall over the dog, can't find the car keys, and we say, oh, you know, it's just going to be one of those days. We have some days where everything goes right. We get the green lights in the car parks and we just get all the right people and the right opportunities. And most of the time we run along somewhere in the middle. Often I'll find that if I'm working with a business that has been struggling for a long time, then their energy level is down the bottom rather than further up. And when we're in that sort of mindset, it is that mindset of I've tripped over the dog, I've spilt my coffee, and what else is going to go wrong, and it just becomes self-perpetuating. So before we can tackle any of this stuff up here, that's the more pragmatic stuff, we need to just think, okay, how can I raise my mindset a little bit? How can I look for a little bit better thought or feeling before we tackle any of these sorts of things? And just by raising our mindset a little bit, we can then, now this might not work, but it's supposed to end up looking like a light bulb. It's supposed to be your light bulb moment, because we then can feel empowered by balancing our mindset with these other areas that all need to feed into our business. So I guess my point, ladies, is while the numbers are important and the pragmatic business development steps are important around marketing and time and staff and costs, it's also important to find a sustainable level with life balance, family, relationships, and your own well-being for that to work, because otherwise you're going to end up with an up, down, up, down, up, down sort of pattern where it's just not going to work long term. And I think that's, a really important point to just bear in mind. We all can be really busy for a little while as long as we've factored in, some time to rest or something to balance us up after that period.
Excellent. Thank you for that, because we started working on this last week when I asked the ladies if they could look at their time commitments and how much they were able to commit to their projects. So we'll work on that in a bit when you've gone. So thank you so much for bringing the holistic view of business up, because it's something that you and I have discussed a lot, and it's so important, especially for women, because we're juggling so many things and we often leave this side of it out, especially our health and life balance. So that's really, really great having that. And I think Carolyn had a question. Is that right, Viv?
Yes, she did. And it was, how do we find a good financial planner?
Oh, okay. Have you got time to answer that? You got a minute or two?
Well, I'm always happy to have a chat with you, Carolyn. And depending on where you are, there may be someone that I also know that might be in your area that I could suggest if you wanted to meet with someone face-to-face. But, look, it is a little bit of the luck of the draw. But what you could also do is ask any of your friends that might see a financial planner if they're happy with their financial planner and would they recommend him or her. I'm happy to have a chat with you if you want to bounce a few more questions around that.
And do you do financial planning work much yourself these days?
I do.
Yeah. So, so you've got someone right here I think you offer a complimentary exploratory session to see if it's right for the person, don't you? Is that right?
Yes, Wendy. I always offer a free, 20 or 30-minute phone chat to start with, where I'll answer people's questions, whether it's financial planning or business development, tax or accounting, or any of the other things that I do. And in that, I'll answer anything that I can or email you through some articles or whatever I think might be helpful. That may be all that people need. If that's answered their question, great. Or if it's put them in the direction, if I can refer them to someone else, fabulous. If there's more that we can do to help them, then we can just go from there. But certainly happy for you to put my details in the chat box, Viv, and anyone that has any other questions or just wants to clarify something, because what we're speaking about here is obviously very generic and everybody's going to have specific questions that they might want to ask in their own time.
Yes, yeah. Well, did that answer that for you, Carolyn? Yeah? Oh, sorry, muted. That's okay, we'll get to that in a minute. Okay. Thank you so much, Dianna. Those few things that you've elaborated on are so important, especially as in our first session I highlighted a lot, especially this right-hand side of the sheet quite a bit, and that you don't actually have a business if you don't have your health and your life balance and you don't have time to do it. So thank you so much. Yeah, that's really great.
My pleasure.
And you can go and relax now.
Lovely to see you all, ladies. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Thanks, Wendy, for having me.
Everyone, Viv, they can say goodbye. Can you unmute people, please, Viv?
Thanks.
you can all say goodbye now to Dianna. Thanks, Dianna. Catch you
Thanks,
later.
ladies. See you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
So can we have the full screen again, Viv, please? As in all of us up.
Yeah, I'll just get Dianna to stop sharing. I'm assuming she's still on.
Oh, okay. She's gone now. Okay. Hello, Dianna. She's still here. We can't talk about you, Dianna. You're still here.
And also I've put up Diana's contact details.
Oh, thank you. That's terrific. And I don't know if many of you know accountants and financial planners, but Diana's a bit different, quite a bit different to any I know, and I did accounting and finance stuff at uni and so on as well, in that she's much more encompassing of your whole life when it comes to things to do with your work and your business and so on. So you've got those slides, drawings of hers to look back on and refer to, and that's why I started last week by saying, you know, look at what your time commitment is, you know, because you're all saying tonight that you're really busy. And that's not a good or a bad thing. That's just a really good example of, I know that you really, really want to get going. Okay, so do you want me to say that, Viv, or do you want to say it?
They should be able to read the chat.
Oh, okay. So that was in the chat box. Okay, just a bit of information about Dianna in the chat box. So did you have a chance to have a look at your time commitments? Because so who was saying about the marketing? Was that you, Ruth?
Yeah.
Doing the marketing? So if you haven't got time to do the real basics of setting up your business, getting an ABN, getting information and advice on what the best business structure for you is, probably sole trader, I don't know all of your details. Finding out whether you should be GST ready or you don't need to be GST. You really need to do that really basic stuff first, and registering your business. And it's easy to do. It's all easy to do. You just need to, actually in some states, and I don't know, it used to be, I think it's worth contacting the taxation department, because you can usually get a free consultation with the taxation officer about all this, how best to set it up. And if you go to your small business centre in your local area, I don't like in here our small business centre is 40 minutes away, so you can often get a free consultation with either an accountant or a lawyer or a business consultant to help you start to set all this up. So it doesn't cost a lot to actually register a business. And if you're going to run a business, and Carolyn already knows this, I'm sure you already have an accountant, Carolyn, is that right? You're muted. Carolyn's muted.
No, she wasn't, but we couldn't hear you, Caroline. Yeah, that's better.
Yeah, I do. I set that up quite some time ago. So
we can't hear you. Can you talk right into the screen? Yeah.
That better?
That's a bit better. You must have very low volume.
It did come up as poor internet issue.
Oh, okay.
I think it's raining here.
Oh, yes, that happens in inclement weather. So you've got someone, and would that person be appropriate for your own small business, or is that mainly for the franchise?
No, with the franchise. So we had to do everything from scratch. So basically you buy the franchise model, but you have to set up all your own. You have to choose
okay.
You know, all the accounting side of it. Everything that she just talked about was what we had to do. And my husband runs his own business also.
So we're finding it very hard to hear you, Carolyn.
Sorry.
That's okay. Well, thank you. So you've already got someone, so that's great. Have you, Tamara?
I have
And
an ABN from I registered a consulting business about a year ago because I was going to teach some teachers and other educators about storytelling. So I have that, and I'm wondering if I can I don't need a different ABN, do I?
No, no, that's fine. You don't need a different one.
Okay,
It doesn't matter what it's for. If you're a sole trader,
yeah,
you don't need a different one. You can have a number of different names under that.
Oh, okay, good. Okay,
So,
cool. That was, yeah.
But, have you got an accountant?
No.
So it would be very wise to ask around and find one.
Yeah.
Because you can actually save yourself quite a lot of money. You do pay, of course you pay, but you can actually save yourself a lot of money in the long run.
Yeah.
So, and what about you, Ruth? Do you have you registered as a business or have an accountant or anything like that?
When I get my tax file number, I also got the Australian business number.
Yes.
Just in case if I want to do some treatment or something like that.
But
I'm not sure if I did well or not, because there was like a not natural therapies. I don't know. I don't remember well. And I put like as a teacher, and I don't know if I on the right number.
Well, you are. You're teaching Moon Mother things. So yeah. So also that's all right. So you've all started, Carolyn. If you feel attracted to Diana's energy, she's an excellent financial planner, or she might be able to put you onto someone local. It's really important I didn't want to say too much of this before, but most financial planners are heavily invested in selling packages. They're not, and there's been quite a lot of media attention to this over the last 10 years or so. So just make sure if you find a financial planner that they are what's called independent. And I'm pretty sure that Diana would be. I haven't gone into that with her, but you can just ask her that. Yes. So look, I think Diana's someone who's very honest, and if she feels she can't help you, she will tell you. And that's why Viv and I thought it might be good to have this extra thing of Diana speaking to you.
Mm.
Straight from the mayor's mouth. So she was great. She is great. She isn't dead yet. She is great. So get those basics done. Put that down as number one thing, to get your tax structure and your business structure sorted out if you're intending to go on. So if you've done your intention, if you've really thought about what your intention is and fine-tune that over the last 2 weeks, you'll have a bit more of an idea of how you want to focus your work. And the other thing is, I was deadly serious when I said that about looking at your time commitments, and I was really pleased that Diana brought it up too, because you're so enthusiastic and motivated in this. I don't want to see you all go down the tube. And if you don't organise your time well, and if you're not realistic about how much time you've got to spend and how much you want to spend, you might end up finding yourself being pulled in all sorts of different directions. Are you finding that's happening at the moment? Any of you?
I feel when you said that last time, I feel kind of protective about my time. I like what I do. Like, I'm part-time mom and then part-time teacher, and I like that, and it works for me. Like, it pays the bills. It's good. So anything that I'm doing with the Moon Mother, for me, feels like it's going to be on the side.
Yeah.
And so I'm taking Yeah. Like I kind of
Well, that's
decided
great. If bringing that up brought a bit of light onto that, it's really good. So then it might be really good for all of you to sit down and look at what your priorities are and then the time you've got available. So you've decided this is your third priority.
kind of, well, I mean, it's not my priority right now. I feel like I'm in a good situation where I do have an income that pays the bills, and I need to keep sane for that.
Yes,
So
we've got to eat.
of getting out there and meeting people and building more community, but I'm not looking at it as, I'm not at the moment. I don't want it to be something that I have to put a lot of energy into in order to make an income from it. I just want to be able to eventually, hopefully sooner than later, break even. And with all the training I've done and with all the flights and with all the, like, I put in some time for business cards and marketing, and if I'm going to rent a room for this, and if I'm going to like that kind of stuff. So,
yes. So have you actually sat down?
Yeah.
And this applies to you all. After last time's discussion about time and commitment and so on, it's really good that if you actually then gave that some serious thought. So if you take on to the next step of actually sitting down and figuring out realistic how many hours a week you're going to spend on it and when you're going to do it and put it in your diary. Have you got to that stage?
Sort of. I put some thinking into it, but it's not like, for me, it's not every week I have this amount of time. It's every 10 weeks I have 2 weeks school holiday so I can do this. Or
well, that's exactly what I mean, so that you schedule it in. Otherwise, when you say, hopefully I want to break even, well, that actually won't happen because there's no commitment behind it if you're not putting something down. So it doesn't mean you have to do it. I mean, because it's going to be different for all of you, how much time you have to spend. But what is the same for everyone, all of us, me, Viv, Dianna, everyone, it's actually developing a focus on how we want to spend our time and what we want to get out of it. So it would be really good for you all if you could, seriously think about that, because you've invested in the Moon Mothers thing and you're all really keen to do it, and you're all going to do it at different times and in different ways. And that's why it's really good if you can stay in touch and feed through to each other your different ideas. So we all need to be protective of our time. So when you say, Tamara, that you're a bit protective of our time, there's something wrong with us if we're not. Because we don't have a life. We don't have, all that right-hand side of that second whiteboard that Dianna did with all the lifestyle and the health and everything. If we're not protective of our time, all of that ceases to exist. And then all of the left-hand side ceases to exist. So maybe if you spend a bit of time now before you really get up and going, deciding how much time you want to spend a day or a week or every 10 weeks or however on it, so that you're not setting yourself up for a fall. Because if you don't commit to something, it won't happen. So what about you? Thanks for sharing that, by the way, Tamara. That's really good that you were able to, really think about that. That's what I'm trying to do with this course, is to stimulate, take you a little bit outside your comfort zone. I'm really pleased to hear that's already happened. And get you to start thinking about things a little bit outside of your usual square and challenge you a bit. So, Ruth, what about you? What have you thought about your time commitment and how much of a part of your life that you want this to be?
It's a good question. But now I'm really worried about my future here in Australia.
Oh, are you?
But because on February my student visa finished, and I want to extend my stay. And now my biggest thing is like the money. So I'm trying to work more hours during the week, not related to that, because I know that maybe it could be difficult or maybe not. Maybe life is like a surprise, or maybe surprise me, I don't know. But yeah, I'm taking some time, almost just to think about how can I approach women here in Australia, and just to create like a good marketing or something like that, just to attract women to me, or even men. But, yeah, but I'm taking some time, just by, I don't know how many hours. I know that I have to put in on paper how many hours during the week, but my mind is like some things are coming to my mind. I don't know, maybe it's like your activity or some ideas come up, and I put into a paper just to approach to these clients.
So when does your student visa run out?
February next year.
And are you not able to stay beyond that?
Yeah, with another student visa.
Oh, okay. So you've got time. You've got time to play with then.
Yeah, because I want to live here in Australia.
Oh,
but
okay.
now, but now I'm not able to get a sponsorship because of my age at the moment. Maybe I can find a partner. I don't know. So if I want to stay more in Australia, I have to get to study another thing.
Yes, okay. Now I understand it, because my daughter's had 2 partners from different countries who were on student visas. So you mentioned once again about marketing. If you don't know who you're marketing to, do you know who you want to attend your events? Do you know what she looks like? Do you know what her interests are? Do you know where she hangs out online? Do you know where she goes during the day? Do you know what her name is? Do you know any of those things?
So much questions.
So if you remember last week, I said if you do not know who you are trying to attract, you won't be able to attract people, because it'll be like having a shotgun with lots of bullets in it that just go everywhere instead of.
True. Yeah.
So you can waste a lot of time and money doing marketing plans if you don't know who you're marketing to. So have a look at that email I sent with the avatar attachment, which is an example of a story of one of my avatars, a midlife woman for a retreat for women 50 plus that I was running. And, you know, it explains, it gets inside this woman's head. You've seen it, haven't you, Viv? Yeah, Viv's seen it. Did that make sense to you when you read it?
Yeah, yes, it did. And it's something that I too need to work on to hone it down, because I think that makes a difference to how much time you put into it. If you start to narrow down to who you're targeting, you're going to have less time doing lots of different marketing. And when depending on which aspect say if you're marketing through Facebook, if that was where you're doing it, you can actually target where your dollars go as well. So it fine-tunes your money as well as your time.
So thank you, Viv. I don't want you guys spending a lot of money and a lot of time creating things like Facebook ads, flyers, things like that, when they're going to be a waste of money. So I'll give you an example that if you read that avatar of my avatar called Jenny, I developed that for a specific reason, and that was for this, to attract the Jennies of the world to this retreat, which worked really well. And I had to get inside her head and figure out what the ideal, so you consider this your ideal client, you know, the moon mother that's coming to your moon mothers who you really love being there, okay? So you don't want whingy Wilma, and you don't want aggro Annie, and you don't want penny pinching Penny. Okay, you want women to come to your moon mothers and whatever business you're running, who are there because they love what you have to offer and you're solving problems for them. So in this case with your avatar, you're solving a problem for them, like they want to know about the female energies, they want to feel a lot better about their women's business, and they want to meet other women who are like it. So, you know, you're really getting inside her head. If you read my avatar, you'll understand perhaps why I decided for this market, my demographic, for a lot of my clientele for my women's business stuff, I don't advertise on Facebook much because they're not the sort of women I'm after. They're tire kickers generally. I will put events on Facebook and have that as well, but most of my promotional work and my networking is done through LinkedIn because I'm after women who really want to take action. And a lot of my followers on LinkedIn, which is growing and it's international, are women who are used to making decisions and they want to be really well because they're doing jobs that require them to be on the ball all the time. Because they're the influencers that I want to influence with my message on how do they look after themselves and how they can teach their teams to look after themselves. So you've got to think about where your women hang out. And I think probably a lot of them do hang out more on Facebook than LinkedIn and Twitter and probably Instagram and your local women's centre and your local women's circles and all the hippie places, you know, they hang out. So you need to develop. So I also have a marketing background, 30 years of it, okay? So I do know a little bit about what I'm talking about, but marketing's changing all the time, so you just got to keep really current, okay? I had to decide years ago that I have to really adopt current technologies or else you just fade away. So have a look at Jenny as the avatar and you'll see that she's a woman, you know, midlife and older, and you can see what her pain points are, you can see what her problems are, and then you design your promotional material around solving her problems. So if your avatar or your ideal client's, you know, Lisa, and she's really feeling the need to get in touch with her female energies and she wants to know more about the cyclical nature of life and she's feeling lonely, she doesn't know any like-minded people, you design your marketing program around giving her solutions for that pain, okay? Because she's the one that you want in your course. You don't want, you know, penny pinching Penny who rings up and says, can I do it for free because I deserve it? I've had so many people say that. That's when I wasn't doing my marketing as well. That's when I started to think, I don't think my demographic is on Facebook. No more tire kickers. Does that make sense to you all? Carolyn, can you speak into your microphone?
Can you hear me?
That's better.
Okay, very close. Sorry, Wendy, did you want me to?
We're all leaning forward to hear you.
So, sorry, you were asking me about, commitment.
Yes.
I'm looking at this really long term. So right now I'm a bit time poor, but that will change into the new year. So at the moment I'm just spending evenings. When I've got some evenings free, I'm, you know, putting some time in. I've got a Moon Mother group on Friday.
Oh, yay!
So that's exciting.
Thanks, Viv.
So really it's just friends and friends of friends. So it's a safe group. But
yes.
I've put a lot of effort into it too because I'm thinking about my avatar. So it's a good place to start. And I want it to be good because I don't want people to go away going, I don't know about that. I want people to get a good feeling about it. But I'm looking at it long term. So this is a place that I'll start. I'm basically starting my own business from scratch, and it may take some years, I don't know, for it to become a full-time business. And,
Yes.
and that's how I'm looking at it. So it'll really start as a hobby, and then it'll grow to part-time, obviously, and then to full-time. And having the good thing about running a business, running a franchise, is that you find out what you like and what you don't like about business, or where your strengths or where your weaknesses lie. So I'm excited that I'm getting to choose this time. I get to choose what I am offering to others.
Okay.
So this is where I'm starting, and I probably will over time choose other courses and other things, so I have other expertise and to offer women. So I haven't completely developed my whole idea, but this is definitely a starting point with a group, a circle, and some blessings down the track.
Well done. And so have you all did you get time to have a mastermind group?
A little way.
Oh, fantastic. So do you think you could have a mastermind group meeting about learning from Carolyn what her experiences of her Moon Mother groups are? So next week when you have your mastermind group, and focus a bit on the learning gifts that you bring and the challenges that you've found with it, Caroline, so that you're teaching each other and getting each other's ideas. Would that be a good idea?
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good.
So we have to head off now. I thank you all for turning up, and I thank Viv very much, because what's even more important is this is available for you to go back over and over and over. And like I said at the start, you don't have to do everything at once. I'd like to make a suggestion of what you get done in the next 2 weeks. And the first one is to really fine-tune your intention or your mission, down to a sentence or two, what you're planning to do. And that it'll be different for all of you, because Tamara, your focus is a little bit different on it to, say, Caroline's and Ruth's and Natasha's. So each of your intentions is equally important, and it becomes your rudder in the boat, that keeps you on course. Okay, so if you can put your intentions in between 1 to 3 sentences, not long sentences either, good, a couple of lines, not like a lot of women do. A sentence becomes a whole paragraph if you say a sentence. And the next thing that would be really useful for you to do is to really, really focus on what you want to commit to this. And it's fantastic how you've all got different levels of time that you can commit in that, and it's great if you can support each other in this. And if you can jot that down and get that really fine-tuned, and just because you've written it down doesn't mean you can't change it, so it's okay, it's not written in stone. But just for now, write that down. I intend to commit da-di-da-di-da, whatever it might be, an hour a week or a day a week or 2 days a week or whatever. So what your realistic time commitment. And the third thing to do is to develop your avatar. I think and so quite apart from, getting your business structure and your ABN, and which you've already got, but getting that sorted out so that you can start to take finances when they come. These 3 things, if you could do these in the next 2 weeks, and if you could email each one piece of paper, like one Word document, no longer than a page, that answers those 3 things. You don't have to have a huge avatar thing. And yes, Ruth, you can have more than one avatar. So if you want to develop a group of older Moon Mothers, then you'd have a different avatar to the younger Moon Mothers. Okay. And if you can do that and email it to me a few days before I need to look at it before our next session, that'd be really great. Do you feel like you've got enough information to go on, and you can go back over this? Is that okay?
Yes, yeah.
Yep.
Oh, thanks for writing that in, Viv. So Viv's written it down in the chat box. So see how you go, and you can have great fun developing your avatar. I have a different one for each type of event or whatever I do. So, but just focus on one. Don't try and do more than one at the moment. So focus on, that's why I want you to develop your intention and your mission so that you know who you're going to focus on then, and focus on that ideal client for that event or whatever you're going to be doing. So don't do more than one at this stage, just for practice. Okay. Just whiz me through any questions during that time if you need to, okay? Anything else that you've got to say, because we'll have to head offline now or we'll get cut off by the great big ninja in the sky.
I will send you rain.
Thank you, Ruth. I'd really appreciate that. Tamara, you right? Are you happy to head off now?
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah.
Okay. Carolyn?
Fine, thank you.
Yep. Thank you all. It's lovely to see you all again. And I'm really pleased that this is bringing up some really good stuff for you to be looking at.
It is, yeah.
Okay, terrific. I'll see you next time and anything else in between. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So don't go yet, Viv. Goodbye all.
Bye.